Today, I'm going to be answering your questions about psychology. So let's get into it. Question 1, hoarding. How it happens, how we get it, is it inherited? Hoarding disorder is really complex and it's characterized by persistent difficulty in discarding or parting with one's possessions, regardless of the actual value of those specific items. Living spaces can become overly cluttered, unusable, and even dangerous. It becomes a problem when it's interfering with your daily living. You can't get through a door, you have poor air quality, or there's some food or something rotting underneath piles of stuff. Studies suggest that 2 to 6% of the population are actually hoarders, and men and women are both equally likely to be hoarders, but men are typically less likely to actually go get treatment. And it usually starts in adolescence, but it develops even worse in adulthood. And typically people seeking treatment are around 50 years old. In order to be properly diagnosed, according to the DSM-5, there needs to be persistent difficulty discarding the items. There is this perceived need to save the items and distress associated with getting rid of them. There's accumulation of possessions that result in very cluttered living areas, which compromises their intended use. And the hoarding causes significant distress or impairment in social, occupational, or other important areas of functioning. There's a great difficulty organizing tasks that comes with this extreme perfectionistic, almost OCD type of behavior, and it can be really, really difficult to deal with. It just keeps making them want to collect more stuff. It's often associated with specific cognitive deficits, such as difficulties with decision making, information processing, and categorization. These people may be emotionally attached to their possessions in fear of making the wrong decisions about discarding them, which contributes to their hoarding behavior. There has been evidence to a genetic component for hoarding disorder, and over a third of people who have it also have ADHD. Brain imaging studies have found differences in the brain structure and function of individuals with hoarding disorder, particularly in areas related to decision making and emotional regulation. Traumatic events or significant life changes, like losing a loved one, can trigger or exacerbate hoarding behaviors. Chronic stress and social isolation are super common among these individuals. To help with this, people may utilize professional organizers or decluttering services. They may even go to support groups and have peers help them through these challenging times. Some people have found effective treatment through SSRIs, but it's not as helpful as cognitive behavioral therapy, which is the most helpful option for most people. This is where you go to a therapist and help reframe the behaviors and thoughts around your hoarding disorder. It's incredibly difficult to treat, and it significantly impacts the quality of life, leading to social isolation, health risks, and impaired functioning of daily activities. Try your best to be a supportive, open figure for them as they navigate this, because it's really, really challenging. Don't try and attack them. Don't point fingers and just accuse, because it's only going to make things worse. Question 2, how do I get motivation to go do stuff like go to the gym? And why does that motivation go away when I get home from work? So this is a tough one because, one, not everybody even likes going to the gym to lift weights as their preferred form of exercise. 2, a lot of people don't even know what they're supposed to do when they go. And 3, it's just really hard to muster up that willpower in the first place. So what I'd recommend is make it as easy as possible. You can do this by removing friction on any of these barriers that are holding you back. So if it's a knowledge problem, try and do as much research as you can and get a basic understanding of what to do when you go. This can be as simple as going on YouTube and searching basic stretches, basic upper body stretches, basic leg stretches. Just go and do some stretches, do a little walk around and observe people. No one's going to judge you for trying to want to learn and by genuinely putting in that effort. That could help solve the knowledge gap. The more you go, the more you research, the more you'll prepare yourself mentally to get into the thing that you're trying to do. Now, again, if you're not super into going to the gym and working out, maybe you're more into going to the track and doing sprints and jog circuits. Maybe you're more into yoga or Pilates, boxing, martial arts, something. Figure out what those things are and do some research in advance to try and help with some of those barriers initially. Try and find an accountability buddy and slowly build the habit over time. To build a new habit, you want to make it as easy as possible and remove as much friction as you can. So, a perfect example of this is I used to teach guitar, and I would always tell the students, I need you to practice at least 15 minutes every single day. It's much better than practicing for 4 hours one day a week and then completely not touching your guitar the whole rest of the week. But the problem is that I noticed every single person would pack up their guitar, they'd zip it up, they'd put it in the closet, and they wouldn't touch it all week. And then I'd come back the next week and say, hey, what'd you learn? Let me see how you practice. Show me that song. Show me that scale. Show me that chord. They would have no idea what I was talking about. And I would think, wow, I'm the worst teacher ever. I'm so lousy at this. It's not working. They're not developing their skills. What are we doing wrong here? But it turns out it was actually more of a psychological thing. So what I would encourage all of them to do is to unzip their guitar, put it out on a stand, put it next to their bed, next to an area where they hang out regularly, and try and remove distractions. So by having the guitar even 15 seconds more easily, readily available than not having to zip it out and pull it out and do all the things would dramatically increase the odds of you actually playing. And by taking out the batteries of your remote and sticking them somewhere far away, so every time you want to watch TV, you have to put the batteries back in. Is it annoying? Absolutely. That's the freaking point. It's supposed to be hard to do the things you don't want to do that aren't good for you. It's supposed to be easy to do the things that you should be doing or want to do or think you want to do. So the more you can remove that friction, the more you can make things easy, it can help you along the way. So set your protein shake or your little drink or pre-workout snack ahead of time. Pack it in a nice little section in the fridge and have it ready to go. Have your workout clothes ready, your shoes, your socks, everything. Have your accountability buddy ready to go. The more you can do this, the more you'll remove friction. Slowly over time, it takes a while. Sometimes it's quick for some people. Sometimes it can be months, if not years, for other people. Typically, we see neurological changes in about 8 to 12 weeks when we start forming new habits. So try your best and keep at it. Question 3. How do I identify signs of a bad relationship and know when to cut people off who are bad for me? Okay, there's a million things to say about this, but I'll try to summarize it in a quick bucket of different things that you should see eye to eye on. So some of the good advice that I've received and that's helped me along the way is when you're with somebody, it's very important to pay attention to your gut. We're animals at the end of the day, and we do have our own set of instincts. So when you're with somebody, are you looking for excuses to leave the hangout? Do you feel good before, during, and after the meeting? What's it like? How do you feel physically? What's your heart rate like? What is your stress level like? There's a lot of things that we tend to ignore or misattribute to different types of sensations. Your heart's beating fast, and you're like, oh, it's because I was excited, or, oh, I thought it was interesting, or whatever. But maybe that's you under stress and you're feeling some sort of anxiety. Pay really close attention to your body and what it's actually trying to tell you. On top of that, I would also say there's a few buckets that you really should see eye to eye on, assuming you're looking for a long-term serious relationship. So those things would be sex, love, marriage, kids, religion, politics, love languages, and just general interests and worldviews. The more your common values align or complement each other, the more you can find agreement in these different areas. And I know that can be tricky and there's so much more to say on each of these buckets, but I would say those would be important areas to explore within the first several dates. Now, don't just trauma dump on somebody or ask them their deepest, darkest secrets or interests in these different lanes, but play it by ear and read the person and slowly gauge. It's okay to ask questions, but just pay attention to how you feel. Read their body language. Understand, is this person enhancing my life? Are they adding to my happiness? Or are they just a chore? Are they this extra thing tagged on? Are they making things worse? There's a lot, again, to talk about this. We could do a whole episode on it, but I think that's a really good starting point. Question 4, how do you help others without coming off as too preachy or awkward? If I see someone in a bad situation, making bad life choices, drugs, bad relationships, etc., what should I do? I think first and foremost, the most important thing to do is understand your relationship with this person. Obviously, if you care enough about them to want to actually take action, they probably mean something to you, but see how close they are to you. Is this a family member, a best friend, or maybe it's a colleague and it somehow impacts your work performance because of their behaviors? This kind of changes the nuances of things, but overall, it is helpful to just have that level of awareness. You want to know what you can say to them and what you can't say to them. But I think this leads into the second part, which is coming from a place of empathy. You never want to come and just attack. You always do this and you always do that, and you're terrible at this, and you're ruining everyone's lives around you. This happens so much. It's literally shocking how much people do this, and they think it's going to solve something. You walk up to the bear and you just start poking it, thinking it's going to help, thinking it's going to actually do something constructive and helpful for their mental health. Come from a place of honesty and transparency. Talk to them as a real human being and just ask the real questions. You can lead with love and say, hey, listen, I really care about you. I love you. I respect you. I really like the relationship that we've built. And I've noticed a change in your behaviors. I've noticed something is kind of off with you, and I just wanted to check in. Everyone has their own way of wording things, but that's how I would approach a situation like that. If it's somebody I care about, I want to let them know that I care about them. I want to let them know that I'm seeing specific observable behaviors that can be identified that I feel or perceive that are actually hurting them in some way, shape, or form. That's the best way to start it, but it's up to you to continue watering that and to keep going through those motions. It's very difficult. It can be super challenging and awkward, but the more real and authentic you can be, the more you can lead from a place of empathy and talk about the specific observable behaviors that are causing these destructive results. Question 5, how do pets affect our moods? Pets are a wonderful way to improve your psychological health, to just feel happier and healthier and more fulfilled, whether it be a cat or a dog or a lizard or something completely different. Everyone has their own preference, but pets are incredible for your mental health. Pets provide a sense of companionship and reduce feelings of loneliness. It can reduce feelings of stress and anxiety. Petting animals has been shown to release oxytocin, a hormone associated with bonding and relaxation. Pets can often also bring joy and laughter to their owners through their playful behaviors and endearing actions. By caring for a pet, you give yourself a sense of routine and structure. The feeding, the walking, and playing with them creates daily responsibilities that helps you feel a little bit more organized and purposeful. It can boost self-esteem and confidence because you're taking care of another living creature. This can be particularly beneficial for children and those looking to enhance their caregiving skills. Pets can also be social catalysts, encouraging interactions with other people. Every time you walk out and you have a cute dog with you, it's very likely that someone's going to stop you and ask about your dog. They may pet your dog or ask you about its name. There's so many social interactions that can come just from being out in public with your animal. There have been studies that have shown that pet ownership can reduce symptoms of depression and anxiety. This can be particularly effective during really hard times in your life. Interacting with pets will lower your levels of cortisol, a stress hormone, and increase your levels of serotonin and dopamine, which make you feel good. There's also a lot to say about the physical benefits of owning a pet too. Just think about it. If you have a dog that you have to walk every single day, you're getting outside, you're getting the sunlight on your skin, you're breathing fresh air. You may be touching grass or sitting down and just observing the world around you. It's great for your cardiovascular health, and it just promotes more outdoor healthy social activity. Question number 6. There seems to be a bunch of evidence that gut health/flora affects the brain's chemistry. Food has a huge cultural and emotional effect just from an eating standpoint. Are there any diets that are known to have good long-term psychological effects? A healthy diet can reduce your depression by up to 30%, and it can improve your thinking by up to 40%. There's so many incredible benefits by eating properly, by bringing in healthy nutrients into your body that have a wide range of incredible benefits long-term for our psychological health. There's so many things that we can do to just generally feel better. People always talk about get your good sleep, which is unbelievably important, exercise, have good social circles. All these things are incredibly important. And food is one of those other critical pillars. I think this is such a huge one that a lot of people either don't know about, they skip on, or they just don't know really what to do or how to navigate the space. It's really hard to say exact specifics for every person out there because we all have different bodies. We all have different diets and goals and heights and weights and everything. There's so much variety here. It is very important that we have a wide range of nutrient-dense foods. You want to make sure we're eating as many colors as possible. Packaged goods, things that are wrapped up and really fried and greasy, overly fatty, these things are going to create a ton of inflammation in your body. They're going to create a ton of brain fog. They're going to make you feel fatigued and very, very sluggish. Things like the Mediterranean diet can make you feel very energized, very focused, very clear. There's also a lot of amazing research around fasting, not eating at all for certain periods of time. There's so much great information out there, and I'd encourage you to start doing your research on your own, talking to your doctor or nutritionist or whoever that's a credible expert with food, diet, nutrition, all of that stuff to find what works for you. Make sure you're eating whole, real foods and try not to over supplement everything that you're missing. Even making small incremental changes, whether it be a tiny snack here or one side dish for a meal there, can make the biggest difference ever. Take it one day at a time and treat yourself gracefully because you don't want to have a bad relationship with food. I know you can do it. You just got to keep being consistent, keep learning more, and be patient. Question 7, how can I be a happier person? I feel like things just continue to get worse in the world, and I feel really negative about things. Any practical tips? I love this question. I've talked a lot about this on my channel before, and I even made an episode specifically talking about what psychology says about happiness. And there's many more to come because it's a super big topic and it's really fun to talk about. I think not enough people understand it truly, and they just kind of scoff at it or scoop it to the side, thinking everything that's positivity is toxic positivity. There's a lot to say about all of that, but I think a great starting point would be to focus on 4 different things. So we all have a set zone of happiness that kind of dictates where we fall on a day-to-day basis, neurologically speaking. So say, for sake of discussion, you have a 0 to 100, 0 being the most miserable, unhappy person in the world, 100 being the most elated, excited, electric person ever. They're just exploding with happiness. Generally, people will have a set zone somewhere, plus or minus, whatever, 10 to 15. And when something good happens to them, let's say you're 40 to 50 on that scale, and something good happens to you, you get a bonus at work. Your set zone is going to remain the same, but your current happiness level is going to go up for a little bit. But then after some time, it's going to go back down. Maybe it goes up to a 55 or a 65, maybe a 70, but then it goes back to that 40-50 zone. Let's say something bad happens. You get in a car accident or somebody shares some bad news with you that you care about. You're going to go from that 40-50 and you're going to sink down a little bit, maybe to a 20 or a 25 or something. After a while, you're going to eventually go back to that set zone. We have this stable zone, right? Some people, it's really low. It's like a 10 to a 20, if not lower. Some people, it's really, really high, 80 to 90, something like that. So to raise that set zone of happiness and rewire your brain for positive thinking, the 4 things you can do are journaling, meditation, random acts of kindness, and exercise. So exercise will teach your brain that your behaviors matter. It will show your body and your mind that it feels good to move and do things. It's really healthy for you, but it also helps your heart. It helps your blood. It helps your muscles. It helps everything. It's universally good. It's such an amazing thing to do. I can't stress the importance of exercise. The next thing is random acts of kindness. You could send a text to somebody you care about. You could write a note and leave it for somebody. You could pay for someone's meal behind you. Doing good is good for the soul and it's good for other people. It's good for society in general. So Doing random acts of kindness will help you feel the love and feel the good, happy feelings inside. Next is meditation. There's so much to say about this. I've made a full episode on this before, but in summary, meditation is a great way to unplug and observe your thoughts, your body. You become this separate entity that looks down to see, who am I? What am I? Why am I? It gets very philosophical and deep if you go deep enough with it, but it can also be super surface level and easy too. It can be simple mindfulness exercises and breathing techniques. You can sit there and go, easiest step, go on YouTube, type in guided meditation. I do this every single morning. Find a 5-minute, 10-minute video, lay down, close your eyes, and just listen. Go from there, report back, let me know how it goes. They're super easy. They feel amazing. And after you do those types of meditations, there's many more that you can get into later. There's thousands of kinds of meditations. I've done a few on this channel, and I have plenty more to say about that in future videos. So keep learning about meditation. And journaling is the final one. This is a great way to get your thoughts up and out of your body. Sometimes we have so much clutter up here. There's all this stuff that's just floating. We have this cultural ADHD that's constantly forming from social media, videos. We're looking at screens. We're always talking to somebody. There's always somebody over here who needs you and somebody over here who wants something. And it's just this constant bombardment. We're drowning in information, but we're starving for actual knowledge. It's hard for us to focus and think a little bit. So this is where journaling can help you document your thoughts, get it up and out of your head and onto a piece of paper. You can literally just write what happened today. You can talk about your fears, your anxieties. There's so many ways to do this, but all in all, it's very, very helpful. So if you journal, if you meditate, you do random acts of kindness, and you exercise, these are great ways to start rewiring your brain for positive thinking. Question 8, can you talk about soul exhaustion? So soul exhaustion is a term that's usually used to describe this deep, pervasive sense of fatigue or depletion that really goes beyond a sort of physical tiredness. It usually is more referencing the emotional or spiritual side of exhaustion that goes far beyond just, oh, I need to sleep and rest a little bit. Some causes of soul exhaustion may be chronic stress, burnout from work, emotional trauma that you've experienced, lack of purpose, maybe you have relationship issues or existential crises. Some of the symptoms include persistent fatigue, emotional numbness, loss of joy, feeling overwhelmed. Maybe you have a disconnection towards people around you and a sense of hopelessness. The first thing that you can do to help with this is to pour into yourself. A lot of times we get so wrapped up with work, with school, with kids, with something. There's always something to do, something to check off for other people. And oftentimes we forget to take care of ourselves. Now, granted, this could very much easily be a long-term lack of rest and relaxation, but when's the last time you did something that was good for your soul? When's the last time you ate your favorite meal or did your favorite hobby? Or maybe you go out and play tennis every Tuesdays and Thursdays and you haven't gone in 6, 7, 8 months because you're so swamped. These intense feelings of burnout and exhaustion literally feel like your soul is aching to its core. It can be super, super rough and just overly defeating and crippling. So one of the first things you can do is really pour into your hobbies. Force yourself to get away from everything and unplug, even if it's hard, even if it's uncomfortable, because I got news for you. That stuff is always going to be there. It doesn't matter. There's always work to do. There's always something to check off, some task to push forward. You have to make the time to do the things that lift you up. Mindfulness practices and meditation can be wonderful for this. They really help you connect with the present moment and help you find your inner self. You can go to therapy or counseling to talk to a professional about this, to deal with some potentially deep-seated emotional issues. Or you can do some spiritual practices or religious practices that resonate with you to really help you get back to your faith. Make sure you're setting good boundaries with people too. Maybe you're being taken advantage of because you're too nice, you're too friendly, you offer to give too much. This could be contributing to this lack of depletion that goes beyond you just needing to take a nap or sleep a little bit longer. Also, make sure that you have a good community around you. Maybe there's some people who hold you accountable for going out and doing the things you love and taking care of your actual body, your soul, doing the things you love that I mentioned earlier. Question 9, highly sensitive people. Can you talk about them? A highly sensitive person, or HSP, is someone who seems very impacted by the moods of others. They may also seem very fragile towards certain things like music, art, shows, visuals, etc. Violent movies and extreme situations may be extremely taxing for the individual because it impacts them very greatly. Their nervous systems are actually more sensitive than others. HSPs account for about 20% of the population, and there's 3 general signs that you might be a highly sensitive person, or HSP. It may be that it takes you a long time to take in, process, and retain information. You become very overstimulated easily because you sit with things much longer. There may also be a deep empathy towards other people. You take on so much of the emotions of other people that it actually becomes taxing, and it's like this emotional anchor or load that you're carrying on your shoulders. This can be very difficult for people who are therapists who also happen to be HSPs. There also may be a sensitivity to small stimuli. You need time to recharge and unplug from normal everyday things, unlike others. And don't confuse HSP for an introvert. Just because you're an introverted person, it doesn't mean that you're an HSP. About 30% of HSPs are extroverts, and there's actually a few things you can do to help remedy the difficult parts of being an HSP. Find a safe space of your own, a place where you can unplug and be safe away from others and sensory stimulation. Learn to set personal boundaries and be very clear on what your needs and wants are in respectable ways. Make sure that you're getting a good night's sleep every single night. Go to bed at the same time every night. Wake up at the same time every night. Have a healthy routine about an hour before bed. Really help you wind down. First thing in the morning, chug a bunch of clean water. Get some sunlight on your skin. Start your day and eat some nutrient-dense, healthy food. Start to discover the freedom of expressing your emotions openly. Don't just hold them in and bottle them up on your own. It's okay to talk about these things and let them out. Grounding techniques can be super helpful here as well. This is a mindfulness practice that can help you become more present in the current moment. You're not worrying about the past. You're not worrying about the future. You're here and now. So look around in your immediate vicinity and think of 5 things that you can look at. Visually, what do you see? Describe those things in your head and observe 5 other things that you can physically touch. Something as simple as this will ground you and anchor you in the present moment because you're focusing on stimuli that's immediately around your physical vicinity. Understand that you need to be patient with yourself while making decisions. It's okay to take a little bit longer so long as you're not hurting anyone else or holding back entire groups or teams of people at work. And last but not least, find a healthy outlet. Find something that lights you up and excites you. If you're an HSP, there's so many things that bring you down from time to time. So it's really helpful to find those things that also lift you up and give you life. Try your best to reframe all of this into a neutral thing. Just because you did something that made you feel really bad or someone else did something that made you feel really bad, it's okay to take that back and zoom out, looking at what you're thinking about or what you're feeling, and understand that this is a feeling and it's okay to feel things. And you may be an HSP, but that's totally fine. There's just certain things that overstimulate you that might not overstimulate other people. You have to be kind to yourself and treat yourself very, very gracefully and be patient with all of this because it's very difficult. The nature of being an HSP is that you're going to be overly sensitive sometimes to certain things that you perceive other people might not be as aware of. So take your time. It's definitely something you can do. Question 10. What is therapy like? I'm debating on going and have no idea what to actually expect on my first session. There's a ton to say about this, so this could actually be turned into several videos alone, but know that when you're first looking for a therapist, it's helpful to explore your options. Don't just throw a dart at a wall and randomly pick one for the sake of picking one. Understand why you're even going in the first place, or why you think you might want to go in the first place. It helps guide you on the type of person you're looking for. Maybe you need help with a relationship and that's what you're really focused on. Find somebody who specializes in that. There's all sorts of different modalities, different techniques, different things that people do. I've had sessions where I sit there and talk the whole time. I've had sessions where I do strange exercises and tapping movements and things like that. I've had sessions where I close my eyes and have these vibrating probes, and it's EMDR therapy, and it caused all sort of crazy emotions. I talk about that in a previous episode. There's so much benefit that can come from going to therapy, and I absolutely think that a vast majority of people, even those who think they're already in a good place, can benefit in some way, shape, or form by going to therapy. Generally, if you can, try and find 2 to 3 and at least try a session with each to see, do you really connect with this person? Do you really, really vibe with them? It's super important that you get along with them well, because if not, I mean, you're supposed to be sharing all these super intimate, vulnerable things with them. The more they know about you, the more they can help you, the more they can provide tools to help you understand what to do. If you're super reserved and closed off and you have nothing to say and don't want to be there, what's the point? Why are you even there? They're not going to fix anything in you if you don't want to be fixed in the first place. I'm not saying that you're a broken person if you go, or you have to be broken or feel super distraught or whatever. It could be anything and everything. Maybe you want to get a little bit more motivation in your life. Maybe you want a little bit more discipline, or maybe you feel like you could be a better husband or father or a son or daughter, wife, whoever, however, wherever. There's so many different things that could be used as points of discussion for a good therapy session. So with all of that, understand that generally speaking, what's going to happen is you're going to go through some sort of intake process, right? They're going to ask you for your name, your info, all of that, and say, well, why are you here? What are you looking for? What are you hoping to achieve? The therapist is going to try and understand what your needs, wants, and goals are. This is a good thing. Again, the more they understand you, the better they can help you. So a lot of it in the first session is just going to be talking and sharing. Here's who I am. Hey, my name's Jeff. This is what I do for work. I'm in the field of psychology. I love skateboarding. I love guitar. I love business and psychology and all these different things. And this is kind of what my family life is like. This is kind of what my relationships have been like. I feel generally good. Here are some things I might not feel so good about. And then you just kind of dissect it and chop it up. The more you go through these sessions, the more material the therapist has to actually chop up and work with. So this is really helpful, again, to be vulnerable, to be open, to share. It's totally natural to feel all these things strongly, but make sure you're comfortable. Again, this goes back to the vibe, the energy, the connection with the therapist. It's super important that you feel safe, psychologically safe, and just like you're in a sound environment where you can talk about these things in a logical, helpful, proactive way. There's so much more that we can talk about all of this, but I'm going to leave it at that. I think that's a good starting point for what you can kind of generally expect on your first session. So we've gone through all the questions today. There was a few that came in through Instagram and Patreon and a few different DMs. And I tried my best to bucket some of the overlapping ones into one of the ones that I addressed today. So hopefully this was helpful for you. It's the first time we've done an episode like this, but I absolutely loved it. It was super fun. It got me to look up some topics I haven't really touched on in quite a bit, but also some areas that I'm really, really knowledgeable and immediately excited and ready to talk about. So I got to learn some cool stuff. I hopefully got to teach you some cool stuff. And there's a lot more that we could talk about with all of these things. If you have any other questions, leave them down below. And remember to take care of yourselves. Remember to take care of those around you. And for all things psychology to help you think, feel, and perform better, stay tuned right here on Psychology of Living. I also wanted to give a very special thank you to my biggest supporters on Patreon: Franek, Erica, Karolina, SunnySue, and Tony Martinez. Your support for the channel allows me to continue to make these videos to help make psychology make sense. Each and every one of you, as well as all my other patrons and viewers, have been instrumental in this channel's steady growth. Whether you're a paid member on my Patreon, an ongoing viewer, or a new face passing by, thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this community.